So, welcome, Jean-Claude. It's I'm ask you a few things about the intensive that you're facilitating and that I'm assisting you in. That's happening in February. That's on dreaming. When we were talking before, you were also saying that there was a big difference between having somebody give back to you their perception of what your dreams mean and having the experience yourself of unfolding the dreaming.
At the time when that I'm talking about, the central aspect that developed in the work, because I joined a group that was already around Arnold Mindell at the time, the central idea there was that telling the information or making an interpretation and telling it to the person is good. But if the person can have an experience of the same information, it's even much better because it comes from him or her deep inside. My interpretation has a chance of being 50% my issue.
Mm-hmm.
If not more. At least 50, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
Much more. And whereas what comes through me and what I experience, nobody can make a interpretation of it if it doesn't fit my perception of it.
Mm-hmm.
The interpretation that comes from the outside will have to fit my perception of what I hear and my interpretation of the feeling that I have or the experience I've had inside me. So that was the idea of working with the body and finding in the symptoms and illness or in chronic symptoms the experience that reflected the same pattern that you found in the dream. But it not only reflected it, you experienced it. And from it, you felt more enabled to be yourself because you had a direct contact with it. Whereas I had done a Jungian analysis, like I said, and while it was very good, otherwise I wouldn't have stayed 6.5 years there. But it was very good. I didn't have the same experience because the interpretation was given to me of my dreams, or the interpretation of what I was going through was given to me and made useful to me. There's no discussion about it. But it was something that was coming from the outside. It wasn't coming from me, from my inside.
Mm-hmm. And you were saying something before when we were speaking as well about that unfolding our own dreams isn't just about ourselves. It's about our relationship with the world.
Mm. Well, that's something that developed in the later years, but it was in that experience that I said. I'm not sure I can recapture what I was saying before, but I can try. What working on your dream does is, what working on your process does, is it enables you to connect differently to the world around you. You're suddenly freer. You suddenly feel that you can do things you could not even think about before. You meet your limitations. You meet your belief system that organize your limitations, and you have an opportunity to review them and decide if you want to go along with them or not. Because on the other side of those belief systems are patterns that you can recognize are also you. You just don't have much familiarity with them. As you become and as you go more into who you are, into who you're more of yourself, and the way I explained it before, where I came from, the young man I was, with my identity, with being a Catholic, with being a cowboy, with being a dropout of school and then doing evening school, with the poverty of my parents were very sweet and loving, and my father taught me calculus at the age of 3 or 4, and told me to read at the age of 5. So it's not as if I wasn't educated, but there wasn't a sense of a discourse, a sense of debate, or something like that. And it was not in my environment. It was a small town, small city, but also it was not among my friends to think like that. And so coming into a group that I came into, suddenly I was meeting a completely different world of people interested in research, people interested in understanding, people interested in challenging ideas, people interested in challenging concepts, that challenging meaning researching them rather than accepting them, not going and fighting them. But questioning concepts that seemed absolute truths, but once you started to review them, were not. And that was eye-opening for me. And suddenly the world started to open. Suddenly it was also part of my dream. That was also in my dream, but it was also a reality. Suddenly there were potentials there I hadn't dreamt about before. Everybody will have their own interpretation of their own process, but to me that was that. And what it made me aware of is that suddenly what I was learning was not just for me and for my growth. I was becoming aware that my skills, my knowledge, my growth were also a contribution to my environment, my family, but also my community. And beyond that, to the world outside that came then in what you just read about me doing, organizing C4, Force for Change, and working with post-war reconciliation and recovery and things like that, or communities in conflict.
I don't have nighttime dreams that I'm aware of right now. Is this still something for me to come to?
Thanks for asking the question. Yes, because the whole idea and the whole discovery of Mindell or Arnie was that the dreaming happens not only, or the dream happens not only in your nighttime dream, which is a snapshot of a process that is unfolding in your mind at that time, and reflects the entanglement that you're involved in your life, and potentials on how to solve it, or orientations on how to go further. The dream happens in your symptoms. The same pattern, not the dream, the patterns of the dreams are reflected in the symptom. And you can unfold those patterns by amplifying the experience of the system just very slightly. Suddenly things start to move. It takes skills and awareness to unfold this, but that's what the essence of the seminar is, or to train those skills and to demonstrate them.
Like the guy whose hip you were talking about that Arnie worked with.
Yeah, that's it. And then there is so you don't need, you can access also just ask a person what is it that you feel in your body. But is there a symptom? But you can also work with just a flirt, something that is attracts your attention, because the concept of the field, which Arnie works with, is bigger than just the dream in the moment. It's how the field expresses itself. The Aboriginals of Australia have the concept of dreaming, from which the word dreaming that we use comes from, which is the fact that nature, Mother Nature, expresses itself, and we are all part of Mother Nature at all times. We all know that, but there is something that is much more direct in the way this is understood, which is that whatever you're doing, you're part of your dream is expressing itself through you and your actions, lack of actions, your partial awareness of yourself, or your development of your awareness of yourself. The dreams are a contribution to this process and reflect this. Mindell has gone further with working with this, where he works with the different dimensions of our experience, from the sentient level, where there is no polarity, to the dreaming level, where there is a polarity, where the dreams, for example, if you look at dreams, there are conflicts that are reflected in dreams. Not only there are other processes, but
dynamics between different parts.
Dynamics between different parts that are reflected. So you have also at this level of dreaming, you have your subjective experiences, you have things that attract you, your moods, your relationship issues. All those things are there, and they're interesting material for you to grow from and with, as you free yourself from your belief systems that inhibit you to believe in yourself and who you are. It's not a push, it's an awareness transformation. And then the third dimension that this is also valuable for, extremely valuable, is the consensus reality, where you suddenly learn how to use who you are for the benefit of the community that you're part of, or even bigger. Some of my friends work with much bigger situations, not just communities they're part of. It's work in the world, like I have also, in different situations.
So the dreaming can be accessed through many different kinds of doorways.
That's it. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for saying it for me.
Great.
Absolutely. You can access your dreams, whether it's through dance, you can access your dream through flirt, you can access your dream by checking out your relationship troubles or conflicts or pleasures. You can access your dream by picking up an involuntary movement that you're doing, or by like Freud used to do, just by the flip of the word, an association that makes everybody wonder why you use that word. You can use, there's so many ways. There's innumerable ways, and I hope that I'll be showing and introducing, or you and I will be introducing those ways and demonstrating those ways and make them profitable, useful for those of us who are there.
Just one thing that springs to mind as you talk about that is the connection that I think is very exciting between people's childhood dreams and their long-term or chronic body experiences or long-term illnesses or body experiences.
Yeah, you're talking about what we used, what Arnold Mindell brought in many years ago to study the relationship between chronic symptoms and chronic and childhood dreams. And this comes from basically the background is Carl Gustav Jung was studying series of dreams to understand the life myth of a person. By myth, we understand not the word that is commonly used today, where it's you're telling a myth about yourself. Basically, you're telling a lie about yourself. By life myth, we mean the pattern that organizes your actions and your consciousness and awareness and lack of it during your life.
Mm-hmm. Like your personal version of like an archetypal experience, something like that.
Well, you live many archetypes, so, but your personal version of who you are. Like if you go into the shamanic lore, Castaneda, or Don Juan, or others, you're living your double. You're living who you are. In today's wording of process work, you're living your big.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yes.
Preparing for a seminar, for an intensive like this, especially this, has to be a dreaming process in itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Could you say a little bit of something about what that's like to do that?
Partially, it's realizing how little you know.
That's so nice that you say that.
It's realizing that, well, you never know anything. I mean, I know what I know, but I also know what I don't know, okay? And I always notice how flabbergasted I am in front of a dream. It doesn't mean I want to understand it, but it's always very interesting to be in front of a dream. I remember so many times there's a snippet of a dream. It means like an image. And as you work with it and you unfold it, there's an incredible transformation happening for the person. And you're part of it, and it's beautiful. It's an interesting question, because I could say I prepare for many seminars or from many forums, but in a certain way, it's I didn't quite realize until you asked that question. It's almost like relating to love.
Yes.
It's almost like that. It's funny. I didn't know that until you asked the question, but I have a love for dreams, and I have a love for the creativity of dreams. I have the love, and I know what it is. It's because it freed me from a belief system that was a belief system. That's what it was. It was just a belief system. And many people are still taken by it. But I'm so grateful it helped me like that. That's all.
Thank you. I think that's a great place to stop for now.
Okay. Thanks for staying on track. That was great.